Hello, my name is Mrs. Rowan, and I'm so happy to be your child's teacher for Epic Charter Schools this school year. And I was able to go over your student Brian's test scores recently, and I wanted to talk to you today about his mathematics test. So his overall average on his mathematics test was a 194. So what they do on this mathematics test is each standard that he needs to master for this test is broken down into 4 subcategories. And Brian's lowest score on the subcategory standards was on the geometry and measurement portion. So I think that if we can really focus in on these standards of these geometry and measurement standards, that we'll be able to help him master these concepts and improve his overall average. So what I would like to do is teach him a lesson about 2D and 3D shapes. And this is part of that geometry and measurement standards that he needs to be able to master. So I would start the lesson by going over the definitions that just make up the shapes that he needs to know. And that would be going over sides, corner vertices, and faces and angles, and just making sure that he knows what these words mean. And then what I did to give examples of 2D and 3D shapes was just to find some stuff that I had around the house that we could go through and look at these shapes together and count the sides and corners and vertices. A lot of times if a student can visually hold something and see it in person, it really helps them to master those concepts. So one of the examples that I had is a rectangular prism. And this is just a box just from a game. So we would go through and count the faces of this rectangular prism, and he'd be able to tell me that it has 6 faces and 8 corners. And then another example would just be a 2D shape, which is a triangle. So we could take this triangle and count the number of sides and vertices. And then we could also use this triangle to teach him about right angles and what is a right angle and what kind of shapes have them and what shapes don't. And I also have found a video on YouTube that I've provided the link for you. And this just gives a little more instruction on what right angles are and how to find them. So I'll share that what that video looks like with you right now. And this video just gives a little extra about what right angles are that we could watch together or he could watch later if he needed a little extra help. And then after the lesson, to assess his understanding of the 2D and 3D shapes that we talked about, I would probably just go over each shape and have him tell me what the shape is and how many corners, vertices it has, how many faces and curves and points, and let him just go through each shape with me and tell me about them. And then I did also find a worksheet that we could go over together, and I could assess if he is able to match 3D and 2D shapes, and then see how many he was able to correctly identify in the matching. And here's the example of this worksheet. So he just simply draws a line from the 3D shape to the 2D shape that corresponds with that shape that he's given. So it's just a really simple worksheet that that he can complete on his own, and then I could go over if there's any questions or any incorrectly to help him master that concept. So this is an example of a lesson that I would teach in person to a student to help them understand the concept of 2D and 3D geometric shapes. Thank you.